Hey guys, it's Paradise, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by 269 and Vestmore, as we were lucky enough to get hands-on with Kunitsu-Gami Path of the Goddess thanks to Capcom. And because we're all quite excited for this one, and Vest actually got to play the game, we wanted to go over how it felt to play, the gist of things, and what we kind of thought about it. And so we're going to get Vest's opinion as we go through. But basically, for those that don't know, this is an upcoming action strategy game being developed and published by Capcom. It comes out on July 19th. It's for PlayStation 4 and 5, Windows, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S. And it's this weird blend of action, strategy, tower defense, and has this really awesome art style and aesthetic. So 26, you did a video on this previously, but Vest actually got to play it. So 26, do you want to give us a lowdown of the game any more than that, or should we go straight to Vest and get in on the game?
No, I'm pretty excited. So while it might look like a smaller game, the best comparison to it would be like, say, something like Kunitsu-Gami from Capcom, because a load of people thought that was like cult classic and stuff like that. So while it might not necessarily look like Monster Hunter Wilds, this might actually just be a banger and like one that is around for a while. But like, I'm happy that we have Vest here and he's had hands on and we get to hear like what he thinks of it as well. So what do you think of it, Vest?
So honestly, I didn't really know what to think going in. I kind of went in super blind. You know, we've all kind of seen the trailers, right? It kind of has that kind of Okami vibe, or I guess more accurately, that sort of traditional sort of Japanese folklore vibe to it, right? But yeah, I was honestly pleasantly surprised by this one. Let me paint a picture for you guys. That's probably the easiest way.
Paint a picture for us.
Yeah, give me the tapestry. Let's get it done. So take something like Devil May Cry, right? Devil May Cry 5. So your main character, you basically play as a guardian called So, and the main objective of the game is to essentially protect this shrine maiden called Yoshiro, who is cleansing this corruption across the land. I believe it's set on a place called Mount Kufuku. So yeah, essentially there's corruption everywhere. Think, again, kind of Okami, yokai kind of vibes. And you go through and you cleanse these pockets of corruption, essentially. This gives you different things. So it gives you like a currency to sort of use in the game. You can unlock followers, like these villagers, basically. And each stage kind of starts with there is a lane, if you will. Think like a MOBA, right? And Yoshiro needs to get to the main sort of source of corruption, which are these sort of like torii gates, right? Kind of classic Japanese thing. And in order to get there, you've kind of got like a day and night cycle. So during the day, you go around, you cleanse like these little pockets of corruption. Like I said, you collect this currency. And you will find villagers throughout this thing that are corrupted. Once you cleanse them, you can actually then take them and turn them into units. So like you said, it's kind of got like a strategy kind of vibe to it. So there's loads of different classes for them. So obviously you just got the normal villagers. You can use them to kind of like work different places on the map. So there'll be like obstructions that you have to get rid of. There'll be puzzles and like stuff like that you use the villagers to solve. And then you've got like more combat stuff. So you have like the woodcutter, which is your like main melee character, really good for kind of holding the line. You've got archers for killing like flying units and stuff like that, and obviously having range. And the reason obviously you need these is because once it becomes nighttime, you've got this night cycle, if you will, where enemies come from that main gate, essentially. So they come down that lane. There's obviously, you know, once you get further into the game, there's these more complicated maps where there's multiple routes. At some places, you know, flyers can get over like a mountain or something and there's nothing you can do. So you have to really like position these characters in the most optimal spots in order to obviously keep them off of Yoshiro. Now, the cool thing about this, on top of that, is your character, So, is actually incredibly formidable. Like I kind of mentioned Devil May Cry, like you have a full move set, you've got all these crazy kind of moves you can do, combos, like the works, basically. But, of course, especially in the later levels, you can't be everywhere at once, right? So you really do need to kind of lean both on your skills as a really, you know, well-trained fighter, and also the skills of the villagers that are able to kind of like, you know, even slow down some of the enemies so that you have time to just clear the map, if that makes sense. So yeah,
I just want to
honestly,
jump in first. So I want to know more about the management aspect, because I love a game where you got to do some like community management in it. So if you think like something like State of Decay, where you got to assign,
Yes.
you got to like build out your base and get different people and assign them places. So you're rescuing villagers, which you can then use as like soldiers to defend. And they can all be set to any class.
Yes. So basically, I mentioned like a currency. I don't quite recall what it was called. I think they were like crystals. But essentially, you collect those around the map as well, and then there are several different like classes. They're not all combat classes. So again, you had the woodcutter, you got the archers. There was one called an aesthetic. They're more of a support class, so they essentially create a zone that slows down the monsters or the yokai, so that you have time. There's another one that's like the thief, which allows you to sort of unlock these kind of buried chests around the map, and those can have like resources and like items and stuff like that. There's also like a sumo wrestler that like taunts. So there's all these kind of different classes, and you can switch them as and when you like. There's also a tactical mode actually that you can go into that allows you to sort of like manage them on the fly. So you can kind of go into an almost like RTS-esque mode. It's a little bit limited. It doesn't let you like kind of free cam around the map like an RTS would, but within your sort of like, it kind of zooms out, a little bit, and within that sort of view, you can like say, okay, I want you to go here and then hold this position, or I want you to, change to this class, or you can heal them, all this kind of stuff basically. So like the management aspects are really cool.
It's kind of crazy. Like, who thought they were going to be like DMC mixed with like Clash Royale?
No, 100%.
Like, they were just like, here's tower defense action game as well. But like, how did the combat feel and all of that stuff when it came down to it?
So honestly, again, that's where I was really surprised and just like pleasantly surprised. Where when I say DMC, like I really mean it. Like you're, getting up into the air, doing air combos. You're there's multiple different combos you can do on the ground as well. There's, you got your light attack, you got your heavy attack. Like, admittedly, I didn't get super far, obviously, because we only had limited time. But there are definitely, there's progression to your moveset. So similar to DMC, you kind of start off with a very simple moveset, but as you go, you can unlock like new things. There's the so I'm not sure about weapons. However, you do get access to like these, I guess, like charms called like Suba. They're essentially the handguards for katana. That's what a Suba is. But when you collect those, you can have up to 3, and they give you like kind of big modifiers to your playstyle. So some of them allow you to use like a super move. So I had one. The one that I enjoyed using was this one that essentially allowed you to put fire over your sword, and you do this like big combo that just like does a ton of damage basically, and it stuns like bosses and stuff like that. There's one that lets you sort of like leap into the air and then immediately teleport to Yoshiro, so that's really good if you're very far away. You can like teleport back to her and like do damage as you land and everything like that. There's one that lets you kind of like buff up your any villagers that are near you. So there's kind of loads of different playstyles I could see just based on this sort of like progression system that you can kind of like really hone in on a build. So if you wanted to be like more of a commander, for instance, and you didn't really want to take part in the kind of combat, you could make a build where you're just like super buffing your units basically. So I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. It's nice that they have that depth of strategy there, and you kind of have options to go in as well. But like, how
100%.
difficult was like the enemies and stuff like that, and their strategies that they took?
I would say, obviously, there's multiple kind of different types of map. So in the kind of standard maps, I think the challenge is more the logistical aspects, of course. Like, so making sure you've got all your lanes covered, making good use of some of the terrain features and like stations you can build. So there's stuff like you can build like barriers that the enemies have to break before they get through. There's stuff, there's like kind of totems, if you will, that can buff your units if they're standing there. So you can create these little like zones that are, good for your units to get more damage and stuff like that. You can make these kind of like choke points essentially. So I think that's where the difficulty comes from. There was some really interesting mechanics on maps as well, just to quickly touch on that. Like, so there was a map, for instance, where everything was just pitch black and you had to light these lanterns as you went. And if it was dark, your village, you could still attack enemies, but your villagers couldn't because they couldn't see them. So that was like really interesting. There was another interesting map type where actually Yoshiro gets attacked immediately by a special yokai, of which there are like several, but there's a special one that flies immediately to her and attaches itself to her face. And in doing so, because you're,
alien
I know that sounds, literally like a face hug. I know that sounds weird, but because you're connected to her inherently, that dematerializes you. So when you die in the game, you don't actually lose. Your loss condition is actually when Yoshiro takes too much damage and then dies, basically.
Oh, okay.
But you are invincible. It's just if you die, you turn into like a wisp. So you can still go around, you can still command people, and you can still like interact with certain things, but you then can't attack, right? So that's like a big deal. And that boss makes it so that you are just in that mode constantly until you can free her, basically, with by accruing enough kills on like the enemies. So that was really cool. I would say the most difficult part of the game was definitely the bosses. There were some bosses that were really, really tough. I mean, you know, Monster Hunter players, like, so I'm used to that kind of stuff. So I didn't really have too much trouble, but one of them definitely was giving trouble to some of the other people there. It was this big, like, centipede thing. It would just run around, it would charge you, but, you know, that's right up our street. So, your boy destroyed it, but yeah.
Nice.
No, it definitely sounds really interesting. I mean, just visually, the game looks awesome. I think that's what
100%.
has drawn us to it most, is that you see the game and you think, this looks really cool, even if you don't initially understand like what's going on. But the fact that it is like a strategy tower defense action game is like quite a mixture of things. I actually do like a good tower defense game. So the idea of managing the lanes and setting up your villagers and stuff like that really appeals to me. Obviously, if it looks good while you're doing it, great. It's the action side that sort of stands out to me, the fact that you can do these combos and boss fights while managing the tower defense aspect, which I think makes it sound really cool. So I'm quite excited to try it as well. But any last comments or that you want to say? Otherwise, I think that sounded pretty good.
Basically, just for like the game itself, I think one of the most exciting things is just, while it might not necessarily look like everybody's cup of tea, Capcom have been releasing like just bangers after banger recently. So I want to see how this goes, because necessarily this wouldn't be a thing that I see a lot of people going for day one, because it's not like the straight action, and when people hear strategy sometimes they're like,
yeah, definitely.
But Capcom have been cooking recently with a lot of their games, so I think this one could be good. But what are you saying, Best?
No, basically what I was going to say is just pretty much the exact same thing. Like, I would say don't sleep on this game if it does look interesting and if it does sound interesting to you. I think if you are like an action game player that doesn't really, you know, vibe with strategy, I'd say still give it a try. There's going to be something here for you, and you might like the strategy aspect. And conversely, if you're a strategy gamer and you don't really play like action, I think this game is such a amazing marrying of those two concepts that both fans of both genres will really enjoy it. Luckily, I'm a fan of both, so it was like amazing for me. But like, yeah, I think like it could be like a gateway game into those genres for you. So I would say if you like any of those, definitely give it a try.
Yeah, awesome. I lean on the strategy side, so that's what appeals to me most. So that's why, like, it's an interesting one. You say appealing to both crowds. But anyway, guys, let us know in the comments if you want to see more of Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess, and we'll see what we can rustle up. Otherwise, we have loads more videos on the channel for you to check out. And of course, Elden Ring is going crazy right now, which we are covering every single day. So make sure you stay subscribed for more content coming soon.